Beth here. I realized I talked a lot in this episode about how Tolkien said he wasn't affected by his experiences in World War One, which is not really true. What he actually said was that these books are not an allegory for the World Wars, which is clearly a very different situation from not being affected by the World Wars or not having any influence on the books. Sorry about that, and if you have any more specific information about the connection of the books to his experience in the World Wars, or World War One rather, please let me know in the comments. And now, on to the show.
Hello and welcome to the Telltale Cake, where we tell tales with cake and we try to ignore the corpses under the floorboards. I am a mysterious hooded stranger. I am wearing an impenetrable fantasy disguise. No one can divine my identity. With me is my dear friend Carol, who is completely morally good with no nuance asked or needed.
Indeed, I am the Lady of Light, the Lady of the Wood, Galadrial.
Perfect. Now, since last we met, it has been several months. We have taken some poorly considered detours. We have taken months to sit around an elf song and chill. I've been attacked by a tree.
I need more of that story for sure.
It fell on my house.
Goodness. Oh wow. You must have misbehaved in the forest and the trees found you threatening.
Tom Bombadil was right. Trees are evil. Fortunately, the only thing that really died was the gutter. And does anyone really need gutters? In my day, we had thatched roofs.
Yeah, you know what? Those are more aesthetic as well. I prefer thatched roofs over gutters.
What have you done since last we met?
Well, I have expanded my ear collection, for one thing. So I would like to lend you my ears again. These have been cut off. I mean, manufactured to be easier to put on. They just slip behind the ear.
Oh, I see. That is very nice.
My ever-growing ear collection is coming in handy again.
Not that you can really see my ears.
And I have not done any unfortunate detours because I'm mostly an enchanted forest shut in. I've done a lot of brooding about potential futures that may or may not come to pass. Talking to the trees, trying to wake them up.
Including the one that attacked me?
I take no responsibility for that particular tree. I think a different elf awoke that tree.
Now, on this show, we eat cake, where the definition of cake is flexible. So I set out to make the one bread ring to rule them all.
It looks delicious.
I don't know that this is the one bread ring. I think this is one amongst many bread rings in that it is at least my third attempt. Not that the other two attempts were bad. It just turns out I really like making bread rings.
Oh, that's good. Then maybe it's one of the elven rings, as there were 3 of those.
Quite possibly. So this is one of many bread rings, and I'm not big on authority, so I don't know that this rules them all, but it might make some suggestions. So one amongst many bread rings that makes some suggestions. This is a slightly enriched dough, so it's got egg in it. And inside, we've got some lemon curd and poppy seed.
It looks wonderful.
You can eat it with a fork or with your hands because it is just a yeast bread.
Feeling some sort of a suggestion of power.
What will you do with that power?
What will I do with it? I don't know. Probably snark on Tolkien.
Well, let's get to that. We can judge this by its cover first. I have the same edition I have last time, but with the dust jacket now.
Oh, very nice.
However, if I pull the dust jacket off, you might see that we've got the same kind of embossed design, but it's in a different color now.
Oh,
because
lovely.
In this set of 3 books, each has a different color.
And I also have my book, which typically the movie being on the book is not my favorite thing, except this is Legolas. So, I can't really complain about seeing Legolas. So, I like this cover.
He is a pretty boy. He's a bit too much of a pretty boy for my taste, but he's pretty.
Oh, I'm Team Legolas.
Team pretty boy?
Always have been.
I'm not judging. So
That's all right. You can have Aragorn.
I'll take that. I like a man who grimes up a little bit.
Legolas just has, great elf hair.
He does. Although, one question we're going to have to ask ourselves, who has better hair, Legolas or the Rohirrim?
Oh, yeah, I know it might be the Rohirrim.
They have
Yeah,
so much hair. So much great hair. We'll get there.
absolutely agree with that.
So, do you have enough power to start snarking on Tolkien?
I think I do. I think I have enough power.
All right. I came prepared with my stuffed spider Shelob puppet,
I love her.
which I will be cuddling throughout.
She has devoured many elf, orc, man, dwarf.
She's not picky. She doesn't discriminate.
Yeah.
And she has red eyes, but only 2 of them, which isn't exactly accurate.
Oh, so this is pre-interaction with Samwise.
Yes. When she's still good and healthy and just having fun, like
Yeah.
just making the babies and eating the mates. Perfect life. All right, so let's get into it. When last we met, Boromir had just done a bad thing. But he immediately dies about it. Just
Instant karma.
It also is much more narratively easy for an author to do this because redemption arcs are hard. There's not that many redemption arcs I've ever read that or seen that I find compelling.
He did feel really bad, like on his deathbed, so that was a really quick little redemption arc. All right.
He might also
He died honorable.
might also felt bad because he had arrows in his stomach.
That's true. That could have contributed to the feeling bad.
I would feel very bad if I were riddled with orc arrows. So anyway, he dies. He confesses to Aragorn that he did the bad thing.
They did a bad thing.
But Aragorn's going to kind of just sit on that information and just
Yeah,
pass on.
that was a good bro move to just
Very
you
bro
know,
code.
No reason to share that.
Not at all. Besides, they have more urgent things to do. Specifically, Merry and Pippin have been kidnapped by the same orcs that murdered Boromir.
Yet they still spend hours like deciding what they're going to do with Boromir's body and like carrying him down to the river and setting him up, which is all very, you know, elegant and honorable and all that. But I kind of feel like they should have been more practical. I was thinking like, you know, just leave the body and maybe sing 50 verses of mournful elf song like On the Run to Rohan.
It's called multitasking, people.
Right. But no, they don't do that.
They don't.
They dawdle around.
They're also angsting about which set of hobbits to follow because
Right.
Sam and Frodo left and Merry and Pippin got kidnapped. Aragorn doesn't think he can track Frodo and Sam, which I call shenanigans about because, first of all, he knows where they're going. Second, there's a good chance they're going to be dancing on a table at an inn on the way. But whatever. He decides to go after the other 2 hobbits after hours at a funeral. So the rest of the party that remains sets off after the orcs. And the orcs are going to cut through Rohan. Hot on their trail, we have the party. And they're going to run into the riders of Rohan, who have incredibly great hair, first of all.
Oh, yeah, just like long streaming braids as they're
Oh,
like
yes.
galloping along, braid flowing in the wind.
Tolkien spends so long talking about how great their hair is. The riders of
I
Rohan.
am here for it.
Yes, they all have great hair. They must have a whole lot of hairdressers in Rohan. I would like to hear their stories. Now, the other thing the riders of Rohan do besides do their hair is practice formation riding. So they do all these silly, dramatic patterns where they get into a circle and then slowly tighten up, which, as a horse girl, let me assure you, this is not easy to do. That takes a whole lot of practice. That's work. They have spent a lot of work being able to dramatically intimidate
kinda
strangers.
just horse people. Like that's their way of life is the horses, right? So
Formation
Makes
riding,
sense.
like
Yeah.
that's drill team stuff. So
Yeah.
they show off their drill team skills, and then they all end up chatting for a while, and they meet Éomer, Lord of the March, whatever. And Éomer is going to drop some really important plot exposition. So he's going to tell them that Saruman is setting up shop in Isengard. He's got his own little orc army. That's where our orcs seem to be headed. He's also sent his friend Wormtongue to go make the king of Rohan all evil. It happens.
Wormtongue is just one of the most detestable creatures. I
He
don't
is.
like Wormtongue.
No one likes Wormtongue.
No.
He doesn't even
He's
have
very
good hair.
unlikable. No, he does not have good hair.
And I think that's why he's so unlikable.
I also like that Galadriel comes back into the story
Yes.
for one of the first times when Éomer comes in. So he's talking about what strange times these are. And he says that what an age we live in. People go and they see the Lady of the Wood and they survive. Strange.
So what do you normally do to visitors?
I think maybe they just like drop dead from terror at my visage.
It happens. What do you do with the bodies?
I think you plant them under trees.
I'm into that.
Or, maybe just like send them, on a caravan up to Shelob. That would be a convenient way to get rid of them. Put them out there where like the passing band of orcs can just grab them.
Sure.
Take them to Shelob.
Though I think Shelob deserves fresher meat than
Oh,
that.
that's true. You're right. No, they would be totally spoiled. Shelob would be extremely insulted.
They're better as trees. Even if trees are evil.
Oh, maybe that's why the trees are evil.
Most likely. Now, Éomer is going to tell us two very important things. First of all, Saruman has a tendency to dress up as a common folk in a hooded cloak and wander around meeting the common folk. And I love that for him. He's taking a break from his responsibilities in Isengard. He's going on a little mental health walk. Be like Saruman. Take mental health walks. The other thing is that there's a lot of raids coming out of Mordor that are stealing only the black horses out of Rohan. And I don't want to be hyperbolic and say that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. But it is the least efficient way one can possibly do a horse thievery. It would also seem... Oh, my ear's falling off.
Oh, no.
As though... I think it's getting caught on the hood. If the Rohirrim were smart, they could, set up a honey pot, get a whole bunch of horses together that are either black or, dye is a thing. And they have access to the best hairdressers. So get a lot of dye, dye a bunch of horses black, set up an ambush. Also, while I admire Sauron's commitment to his aesthetic, it's important for people to set up their environment in a way that makes them happy. Dye is a thing. Armor is a thing. Like, you can make really cool horse armor that's all black. And
True.
You won't see much of the horse underneath. So if having a color-coordinated army is a thing that's important to you, you can make this happen with whatever you have. You don't need to do the least efficient horse thievery.
I definitely like the idea of the horse honeypot. That's a good call. See, you would have been a much better advisor than Wormtongue. You should have been at the side of King Theoden instead.
I'm not sure King Theoden would notice me if I were a woman, though.
I don't know. He seems to value Éowyn, leaves her in charge.
He literally forgot she existed. He was originally going to be like, okay, well, I'm taking Éomer and y'all can figure out your own leadership. Bye. And he had to be reminded, wait, Éowyn is part of your royal family. You can leave her in charge. And he was like, oh yeah, good call.
Yeah, maybe he was still just coming out of the Wormtongue Saruman enchantment fog.
That would be the charitable way to interpret that.
It would be. Yeah.
So maybe I would have some leadership opportunities in Rohan. I'm not sure I have good enough hair.
Oh, I don't know. You have pretty good hair.
But it's not blonde.
All right. Dream spoiled.
Why can this ear not stay in?
It's true. Cloaks and ears just don't exactly go together.
Cloaks are some of the least efficient and most difficult clothing options. And they're not even a great option for keeping you warm because you then can't use your arms.
Right. You have to dedicate your hands to holding the cloak closed. True.
And you also can't billow dramatically and hold your cloak closed at the same time. And the only possible excuse for wearing a cloak is either that you're not good at sewing or that you want to billow dramatically.
Or you want to be mysterious and hide your identity, of course.
That one too, because this is an impenetrable disguise. You still don't know who I am.
I know. I've been waiting to hear your name.
You will wait a while longer. The hobbits are being carried to Isengard by a bunch of orcs, and I don't know if you're old enough to remember a bunch of silly Flash cartoons on the internet about this, but there was definitely one. They're taking the hobbits to
Oh,
Isengard.
yes, yes.
They're taking the hobbits to Isengard. God.
God.
I'm taking the hobbits to Isengard. God.
The hobbits try to leave some breadcrumbs, sort of clues.
Yeah, throw the little leaf brooch on the ground, because apparently the brooch is so sturdy and perfect that it could never fall on its own. So it's like if it falls, that's a signal to Aragorn that it was done intentionally.
Of course, Aragorn finds it and interprets it that way.
Right.
Though he couldn't possibly have tracked the other hobbits that he knew exactly where they were
I guess
going.
he was just completely befuddled by the river crossing or something. That's why he couldn't follow Frodo and Sam.
Maybe he tracks by smell.
He also kind of was like, oh no, he knows that Boromir tried to take the ring from Frodo. So he's kind of like, Frodo is on guard now. Frodo's going to think that I'm going to try to take the ring from him. So maybe I'm better off helping the other hobbits.
Also a very charitable interpretation of that.
And they know that, Merry and Pippin know about the plan. They know about the ring. They're captured. So, they're going to go and be interrogated, and they're going to give up that information. Frodo and Sam are not captured yet. So it's the secrecy of the plan is more preserved by going after Merry and Pippin.
That is a good reason. But there's going to be infighting amongst the orcs, along with many somewhat humorous interchanges between various groups of orcs.
Oh yeah, we have the Saruman, Isengard orcs, and then the Mordor, Sauron orcs.
They don't get along, which the evil people are definitely sort of exploiting, as evil people do, and also colonialist types. I have feelings about colonialism we will get to. But the upshot is that Merry and Pippin escape, and they wander off into a forest that we have to be assured is creepy, and they meet some giant tree people.
And fortunately, they leave additional clues in the form of a snacky snack.
Yeah.
Aragorn is, trying to figure out whether they survived or whether they're dead with the orcs after the Rohirrim have killed all the orcs. And he's like, oh, look, here's some limbus bread crumbs. Here's, the leaf that the limbus bread was wrapped in. Who in the world would sit down for a snack, at the battle? Only a hobbit, of course. They're alive.
Battles sound really unpleasant, though, so I definitely think some snacky snacks would improve that.
That's true. It would be an improved situation.
So always bring cheese and crackers and lembas to your battles.
The hobbits were also so weary from the whole orc travel fiasco that they couldn't even crawl into the forest without a little snacky snack.
Relatable.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just need to take a snacky snack.
Yeah.
So they crawl into a forest. They meet giant tree people. They make friends with the giant tree people because trees are only evil in Tom Bombadil's forest.
I think they kind of talk about that there's some evil trees in Fangorn as well.
But we never meet them.
We don't get to meet them. They're kind of like, oh, I feel the darkness far off somewhere. So there's some bad trees somewhere. Or maybe they're just very bitter from all the tree abuses that they've been suffering.
It's entirely possible.
Or maybe I buried a few too many corpses who dropped dead at the side of me in Fangorn, and they became evil.
Well, maybe you should stop doing that.
Okay, I'll try.
That is all I can ask. I don't even want you to necessarily stop. Just why don't you kill a few fewer people and work your way down to stopping?
I can make some progress.
Yeah, just do what you can do, small measurable
What do they
steps.
say? Do something for 30 days becomes a habit. All right, I'm ready for the don't kill anyone just by looking at them for 30 days challenge.
Or even, if you've killed 5 people in the last 30 days, why don't you just try killing only 4 people? Next 30 days, 3 people.
That sounds good. That sounds like a workable plan.
I think that's a good, solid, workable.
I accept your suggestion.
All right.
Probably because I have eaten your one ring bread, and now
You're
I'm more open to your suggestion.
You're under my thrall. Excellent.
So Treebeard, as I was reading this time around, I realized that Dr. Seuss must have been inspired by the Two Towers, because Treebeard is absolutely the Lorax.
He speaks for the trees.
He speaks for the trees. And, Saruman has been just making all his machinery and, cutting down the trees for his, his army and his mechanisms. He's making way too many thneeds along with orcs.
Yeah, it's not okay.
So Treebeard is the Lorax.
He is. And they're going to make a little bit about how long the Ents take to talk about things, but I feel like their meeting is not any longer than the interminable Rivendell meeting.
That's maybe even shorter. I feel like Rivendell was
took so long.
Yeah, I think that the Ent moot was actually shorter than Rivendell. So
I think so as well.
They do a lot of hoomty doomty hoom hoomty doom.
And they talk about how they're not a hasty people and how you should not be hasty now.
Yeah.
But in all honesty, they take way less time to make a decision about what they're going to do, and then they go do it, than the party spent having a meeting and then hanging out in Rivendell.
True.
So
sounds like, Elrond and co. could learn a bit about hastiness from the Ents.
Which is all sorts of funny when you think about it.
And also, the Ents properly appreciate the elves. I like that.
They do.
Like, we were just trees. We were just being trees, and we couldn't talk. And then the elves came, and they wanted to speak to us, and we woke up, and now we talk.
And that's what happened.
Good job, elves.
Yeah. Well done. Almost makes up for all those evil trees you made.
Almost.
You got to take the good with the bad.
Yeah.
So they reach a decision, and instead of hanging around for months to do elf song and chill, they just, in the next few days, they set out to Isengard to murder the shit out of Saruman.
Saruman has conveniently sent his entire army out to murder the Rohirrim, so that works out well.
It really does. Speaking of the Rohirrim, so the remainder of our fellowship, Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli, are going through Fangorn, trying to find where the hobbits went, and they run into a mysterious stranger in a hooded cloak with a hat. Could it be Saruman?
It probably is. Don't let him speak. He'll enchant you.
But it turns out that he reveals himself.
Gandalf!
And I pulled my other ear off. And it is Gandalf who was last seen dead with the Balrog. How could he have survived?
Well, he turned the Balrog to slime.
As one does.
Which I think that's pretty great. I like the image of the slime Balrog.
Though I will admit my strongest association with slime is Nickelodeon.
Yes, right.
So I kind of just...
getting slimed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who got slimed by the Balrog?
We don't know. I mean, I guess, Durin.
Yeah.
Because it is Durin's Bane, so Durin...
Durin's on Slime Time Live now.
Yes. I think you were the one who sent out the Eagle Uber to pick up Gandalf.
That's right. So Galadriel, contributes to the plot again. She probably saw, in her magic mirror that, Gandalf needed some help. And she's like, Gandalf is really drunk. He doesn't remember his name. Let me just send that Eagle Uber over to pick him up.
Which is just being a good friend.
Right. Yeah.
So sometimes you just need a friend to send you an Uber. When
Gandalf and Galadriel go way back.
They do. Once Gandalf remembers his own name, it turns out he's totally leveled up. He's got a new outfit, which was what happens when you level up. I have I've watched a lot of anime. That is exactly what happens. And now he's here conveniently in Fangorn with his magic horse Shadowfax that he borrowed from the Rohirrim.
But Shadowfax is epic.
Oh yes, he's the best horse.
Oh yeah, yep.
In Two Towers, My Little Pony, Shadowfax is the best.
Yes. One does not ride Shadowfax. Shadowfax deigns to carry one somewhere if he so chooses.
And shows everyone the meaning of haste.
Yes. Which, finally, someone needed to show Gandalf the meaning of haste.
Somebody needs to be hasty in this whole situation. Stay.
They need to be switcherooed.
I have my ears on wrong.
Yes. There you go. They'll stay on better that way. I liked all of your variations that you were figuring out, though.
I'm glad I entertained you on my ear variations before figuring it out.
I'm just mean that way.
Well, at least I'm not dead in your wood from looking at you.
That's right. You know, the power of your One Ring bread allows you to gaze upon me without falling dead.
Excellent. So they decide, now that they met up with Gandalf, they decide that the hobbits are fine. They're with the Ents that Gandalf apparently knows, because Gandalf knows everybody. He's that one person that's at all the cocktail parties.
Yep. Yes.
It's like, how are you here? How do you know these people? So they go down to meet the king of Rohan, free him from the thrall of Saruman via Wormtongue, and just generally fix Rohan. Which they do. Theoden might still be old, but he still has great hair. Eowyn, his daughter, is sort of standing at in the background with her great hair, giving tragic, yearning looks at Aragorn, who sort of looks back at her and sighs.
I'm a big fan of just like wistful maidens, just staring into the distance and staring out, skirts billowing. I like that whole motif a lot.
It's pretty fabulous.
Yeah.
So Eowyn clearly yearns for Aragorn tragically, but of course we know in another life when Aragorn wasn't doing so much elf song and chill with Arwen, maybe.
They have a little moment. They make eyes at each other, but that never goes anywhere.
It doesn't. It's such a tease.
Yep.
So they fixed Rohan, so they're going to take the king of Rohan and Éomer, and they're all going to go out to war and throw down Isengard. There's a mighty battle because, as you pointed out, Saruman sent his entire orc army. Legolas and Gimli have a fun little murder contest.
Yeah, there's like zero humanization of the orcs here. This is just like who can slay the most.
It might be interesting to point out here that Tolkien was a veteran of World War I. One of the most dehumanizing, bloody conflicts that
checks out. That would inform his writing.
Yeah, it will come up again, probably. Well, I believe he has said that he was not affected by his time in battle in World War I.
That seems delusional. That would be a delusional take, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I don't like disagreeing with people's statements about their own feelings in mind, but, as we read it, let's just keep bringing up how much he wasn't affected by this.
At least Legolas and Gimli, bond. We have a strengthened elf-dwarf relation.
Over murder?
Over hating orcs.
Obviously, Tolkien would not have at all been affected by the sort of propagandizing that was going on in World War I, where Germans were Huns who ate babies.
Right, but he's unaffected. Yeah,
Totally.
it just, I know what you mean about not invalidating people's statements about their feelings, but you don't just experience a war and not be affected. That's just kind of, that's kind of not a thing.
It seems unlikely at best.
Yeah.
I would assume he's doing the whole stiff upper British lip because he is a very British man.
Yeah.
So they have a mighty battle. They murder lots of orcs. They get to Isengard, find that Isengard's already been conquered by Ents. They get met by the hobbits, who make sure they get food because the hobbits just know their strengths as people.
And Gimli is pretty pissed off at the hobbits. He's like, we have been, marching ourselves ragged, coming to save you, and here you are, just like feasting and smoking.
And they're like, you want to smoke too?
So, do you think their comforts were well earned? Were they well earned comforts?
They did get captured by orcs.
Yeah. So I would say yes.
Mary got hit on the head.
They went through an ordeal.
They did.
They deserve a little feast and smoke.
How much do you have to suffer for other people's suffering anyway?
None.
That is
None.
how I feel about
Yeah.
it. Because, so while it was nice of Gimli to come after them, he did not rescue them. They kind of rescued themselves and then went and made some friends and went off to find a feast.
And he's mostly good-spirited about it. He's relieved. He's relieved that they're fine. But he's just like, poking some fun at them. It's like, I thought you were dead, but you're feasting.
And Gimli got to do some feasting in Rohan.
True. There was feasting all around.
So really, I don't think it's very justified. Saruman is holed up in Isengard, which is sort of an impenetrable fortress, apparently, even for Ents. But he comes out to talk to Gandalf with his magic conversation powers, but Gandalf has better magic conversation powers.
Yeah, because he's taken Saruman's role in the whole wizard organization at this point.
So he's more powerful. And I really like the way that wizards' power is portrayed here, because a lot of times, especially in D&D, when we get into wizard battles, it's just who can throw the most special effecty fireballs.
There was no like sha-na-na-na-na-na-na-na-na.
Not at all. There wasn't any of the wiggling fingers. There weren't any lightning cracklings. It's just who is more better at saying words.
And I like how everyone else who's there present for the conversation is like pretty much taken in by both of them. Like whoever is speaking, they're like, oh no. I think maybe Gimli or one of the company is kind of convinced that Gandalf is going to go over to Saruman's side because he feels so moved by Saruman's magic speech. He's like, oh no, Gandalf is going to go betray us. But then, no. Gandalf shows Saruman who is now the white in the wizard organization.
We are attributing this to the wizard's power, but could it also be that Gimli's just most convinced by whoever talked last? But we're going to go with its magic wizard powers.
Yeah.
So anyway, Saruman's power is broken. He has to just hang out in his tower with his dear friend Wormtongue.
That would not be the person I'd want to be cooped up with.
We all just went through quarantine and the pandemic.
Oh no, getting quarantined with Wormtongue.
No. That would be the worst.
Yes.
And their one magic Zoom machine, like to make Zoom calls with, Wormtongue ends up throwing it out the window.
Yeah, like, what was he thinking there? Was that just like he's just trying to lash out at Saruman? So he's like, hey, I'll get rid of your magic thing because I'm mad at you because you lost?
I'm not sure. It didn't seem to be a very good decision.
Yeah, no, not at all.
I would think if Wormtongue was being such a persuasive advisor, he'd make good decisions. But regardless of how this happens, he throws the palantir, which is the magic video call sphere, out the window.
That's right. That's the quarantine Zoom call device.
Yes.
Which it is time for surprise prop. This prop is. Oh, I have it all folded up, just like Gandalf folds it in his cloak.
I'm quivering with anticipation.
Here's my palantir.
You have a palantir.
I have a palantir.
That's so cool.
This is what I use to do palantir and chill.
I love that.
Definitely not with Sauron.
No. He's just not a chill guy to palantir with.
Here's the palantir.
The camera's there. Palantir and chill.
Oh no, I wonder if Sauron is going to see all my secrets. Put it away. Put it away.
Put away,
do
donkey.
do you dare touch?
So I kind of have phone anxiety, so I would probably not want to look into the palantir. Even when I have to do Zoom, I usually have my camera off.
That's fair. That's fair. Okay, so if you're Pippin and this thing just like falls out of the tower, so we don't even know what it is yet. I think Gandalf doesn't even know what it is. Just this thing falls out of the tower. Do you go pick up the totally unknown object that fell out of Saruman's tower?
Have I still watched a lot of horror films in this situation?
So you're gonna go with no.
I would like to think I'm too genre aware to do things like that.
That's fair.
So touch the mysterious thing that fell out of the wizard's tower just seems like not a good plan to
Right.
me.
You know, that's fair. I am stricken with insatiable curiosity personally. I feel like I might be tempted to just be like, what is this?
I am going to go peer into the mysterious thing that fell out of the wizard's tower.
So, you know, if I'm Pippin, I'm definitely picking that up. And if I'm Galadriel, I might be arrogant enough to think that like I can have a battle of wits with Sauron and, you know, not give away secrets.
You could definitely try it. So, when you say matching wits with Sauron, is this more or less of a classic blunder than matching wits with a Sicilian?
I'm going to say probably more of a blunder. I think Sauron is a bit worse than a Sicilian.
Maybe. I'll have to
But I definitely would not get into a land war in Asia.
never do that. So there's this little side quest with the palantir. Pippin ends up looking into it and having to be rescued
So
again.
So you'd be wise enough not to pick it up in the first place. Well, Pippin is such a fool that even after Gandalf is like, do not touch this, he still goes for it. But his justification is, you know, I've been put through so much danger, I deserve a little information along with my danger.
See, I feel like I'd be more like, I need more of a smoke along with my danger.
Right. Right, he should have gone back to the pipe weed and not the palantir.
Mm-hmm. I can kind of see wanting more information with your danger. But he's been to 2 really interminably long meetings already.
True, that should have been. That was too much information.
Yeah, I feel like if I'd been to one of those meetings, I would be like, I don't want to know anything more.
He probably zoned out and then didn't get any information from the meeting because it was so long and boring.
I would have probably done that too.
There's also a common theme with multiple characters kind of being frustrated that Gandalf kind of mutters stuff to himself that is intriguing, but then doesn't really explain it whatsoever. Like, even Aragorn gets a little annoyed with Gandalf about this.
To be fair, that is incredibly annoying.
It is. I know, Gandalf always vague looking. I feel like if I was Pippin, after Gandalf swoops it away and hides it, I think even my curiosity would not lead me to trick the powerful wizard.
Probably not.
Because he goes and he puts a stone, you know, Gandalf's sleeping with the palantir, and he, like, does a little switcheroo.
Indiana Jones style.
Yeah, exactly. And Gandalf's like, the rock is there. And he goes back to sleep.
And then Pippin looks into it. It's a bad idea. Yeah, I think Pippin just chill. I mean, even if Gandalf does annoying vague booking, oh, no one should touch this all-powerful object.
Yeah.
I think after spending a lot of time in Gandalf's company, I would just be tired of the vague booking and just be like, okay, whatever.
Yeah, right. Just like, don't listen to anything Gandalf says.
All right, we have reached part 2 of the book, where we're going to abruptly switch worldviews, and we're going to follow Frodo and Sam, and also Smeagol / Gollum, which is the kind of pejorative term that the hobbits use for Smeagol.
He does say it to himself a lot, I guess. Yeah, I guess that's...
Well, I say like a lot, and nobody's going to just call me like.
Okay, true. It's a little mean to poor Smeagol.
And so they've had Smeagol join their party, and I have feelings. I have, in fact, a diatribe, a rant, as it were, about how the treatment of Gollum is a token of the colonialist attitudes that were very present in the world at the time.
Yeah.
To wit, we have a world in which the great powers have created these ultimate magical thingamajigs, and they lose one of them. And it enters the world of Smeagol, and it absolutely destroys his world. He has no information or anything on what this thing is,
Right.
but he very rapidly develops a complete chemical dependence on it, to a point that Frodo can and does use the ring to threaten him, to force him to obey, which is kind of weird. Hey, remember how the British forced China to buy opium? So
This is a fitting analogy.
it feels
Yeah.
very that.
Yeah.
So we have this person who, not exactly a hobbit, we don't know what they are. His world's been destroyed by the ring. Nobody at any point has any issues with Bilbo just stealing the ring from him. Just like, there's no moral problem with just taking that. Bilbo doesn't know what this thing is either.
I feel like, stealing something that helps you escape from someone who is actively trying to kill you might be permissible.
Yeah, it's somewhat permissible. Like, it's not the worst, but the fact that nobody ever worries about taking the ring or even giving Smeagol any information on what the ring is. He's not at any of these interminable meetings. Boromir is. Boromir also falls under the sway of the ring, but Boromir is going to get treated with a lot more grace and respect, whereas Smeagol is, one, he's referred to as Gollum. Two, he's kind of referred to explicitly in so many words as a dog. And he is portrayed as this thing that's just capering around and trying to get attention. There's a chapter that's referred to as the taming of Smeagol. Pro-colonialist poet Rudyard Kipling has a poem, The White Man's Burden, and he talks about newly conquered peoples being sullen and half devil and half child. And that kind of feels to me like how they are portraying Smeagol. The only reason they don't just kill him out of hand is because Bilbo pities him, which isn't like the nicest emotion to have at the best of times, though I guess if pity's what's keeping you from cold-blooded murder, yay, pity. However, I did want to actually read from The Hobbit the exact reason why Bilbo pities him.
Let's do it.
He must fight, he being Bilbo here. He must stab the foul thing, that being Gollum, put its eyes out, kill it. It meant to kill him. No, not a fair fight. He was invisible now. Gollum had no sword. Gollum had not actually threatened to kill him or tried to yet, and he was miserable, alone, lost. A sudden understanding, a pity mixed with horror, welled up in Bilbo's heart. A glimpse of endless, unmarked days without light or hope of betterment. Hardstone, cold fish, sneaking and whispering. Now,
It's a pretty good reason to pity.
is it? So, Gollum lives in a hole in the ground,
Yeah.
which famously Bilbo does too.
Yeah, right.
So the only difference here is the lighting and the moisture content. And as a reminder, Smeagol is not actually a hobbit. He's a whole different people. We don't know what he is, but he's a different species. And so we don't know what he prefers here. And I have read a book not too long ago, Piranesi by Susanna Clarke, which makes it sound like living alone in a dark cave is quite lovely, actually. So it's really like a matter of perspective. And as far as eating cold fish, I love cold raw fish. Sushi is a thing.
Yeah, you know what? Raw fish would be like one of the more palatable, like survival scenario foods, I think. So I agree. Just sashimi all the time. Not the worst.
Love sashimi. Not everyone does. I respect that. But somebody having a different food preference from you, if you are like, no, I don't want to go out to sushi, I don't like cold raw fish, I'd be like, okay, cool, let's figure out another place to eat. Not, Oh my God, I'm pitying you so much right now. That would be weird.
So you're thinking that maybe Smeagol is kind of happy. Just he has his precious. He's got his sashimi. He gets to chill alone. I can see it. I can see it.
I don't think we have the grounds to just assume that he's pitiable. We
Yeah.
also don't necessarily need to be assuming that he's not capable of understanding things the way we do. Remember, when Aragorn captures him, he just kind of sticks him in jail somewhere.
Yeah.
Doesn't explain anything. Smeagol is, if we can remind you, trying to find the ring because he has a physical dependency on it. We're not going to explain this to him. Frodo's not going to explain anything to him. There's going to be a point where they run into Faramir and his merry men, which we'll talk about in a second, where Frodo talks about, Gollum's just not going to understand the necessity for him to come quietly or be killed.
Right,
It's
that's
like,
kind of unfair.
it's like, well, it's a good thing nobody's going to try to explain anything to him. And Smeagol basically gets along through the situation just by groveling a lot, which is kind of just an ugly, repugnant thing that nobody seems to have a problem with. Like, he's calling Frodo master. Faramir's like, you have to stick with your master. Nobody's questioning this relationship.
Yeah, like my perspective on all the interactions with Gollum is kind of just like a practical perspective. Like, I see what you're saying about like why assume that he's pitiable and why assume that he can't understand any of these things. Like, definitely once we get to the point of the Farah merry men, Frodo and Sam know that Smeagol wants to kill them and take the ring. So it's kind of just like they could try, maybe they should try to reason with him and inform him. But personally, like if I'm in a life or death situation, I'm like, this thing is going to kill me, being fair to it is probably not like my top priority.
I can see that. But there's really high stakes, like theoretically, like not destroying this thing will end the world.
Right.
I'm
Yeah, they could maybe like consult him about what he's experienced during all those years of being the keeper of the ring.
just not treat him like a dog.
Right.
Treat him like another person, I think. But as a reminder, Tolkien, veteran of World War I, so he grew up in a world where Britain just kind of owns a lot of it.
Yep.
And as the aftermath of World War I, Britain gets to carve up a lot more of the world that's left over from what used to be the Ottoman Empire in a way that is remarkably self-serving.
I think Tolkien saw himself as a hobbit.
Definitely not as a Smeagol.
No.
Anyway, they find Smeagol. They treat him like a dog. There's a taming of Smeagol kind of thing. But they get him to agree to show them the way to Mordor. And they're later going to be just shocked that he betrays them. So I kind of think they should have expected it, but that's
Well, Sam definitely does.
he does.
Sam never trusts him like a single bit. Sam is on team kill this thing immediately, like the entire time.
Sam is also make this thing get us rabbits and then don't feed him even though he's hungry, which isn't the nicest thing to do. It's like you couldn't have left some of the rabbit uncooked.
Right.
Because Smeagol's got to eat as well. And just because you don't like raw meat doesn't mean...
Sam has a lot of good qualities, but he's very cruel to Smeagol for sure.
He is.
But he's also single-mindedly practical about like protecting Frodo.
He is.
So, like from an outside perspective, does Smeagol deserve like some compassion? I mean, yeah, but Sam is dealing with knowing that Smeagol wants to kill him. Like they're doing anything they can. Like, you know, they pretend to sleep and stuff so that Smeagol can't kill them.
Right.
Oh, there was one very sad part. I think it's a time when Sam is supposed to be keeping watch. Frodo has fallen asleep, but then Sam accidentally falls asleep, and Smeagol kind of comes up, and he's almost like, even the way the book describes it is that, if Sam had seen the entire approach of Smeagol, he might have seen that it was just like someone maybe remembering distant friendship and family, but then when Sam is roused from sleep, he just immediately jumps to like, oh, he's attacking us. But there was really more of like a yearning for a more human connection there.
It does occasionally treat Smeagol better, the narrative, but overall it's just like, it's kind of, ugh.
Yeah, especially the master language.
Yeah.
And the dog type language. Yeah.
It's not the nicest. But they do get Smeagol to show them the way to Mordor with a combination of threats and bribes.
Oh, I know. I think Frodo is like, I'll put on the ring and I will command you to like throw yourself off a cliff.
Yeah.
Pretty harsh.
Yeah, because apparently he can use the ring to do that. So Smeagol starts leading them toward Mordor. They go through this super creepy swamp where there's been an old battle where a bunch of people just died in the swamp. As a reminder, Tolkien was not affected by the massive casualties of World War I.
Totally unaffected.
Where there were battles where people literally drowned in the massive amounts of mud that was created. That was a really cool scene. I loved the imagery and the language in that.
Yeah. For sure.
So they get through that, and then they run into Faramir and his merry men. Faramir is Boromir's little brother. He's got a group of men from Gondor who all wear green, which is why I keep calling them the merry men, because they remind me a lot of Robin Hood.
Yeah.
Now, they have a rule where anyone who gets too near to their super secret hideout gets absolutely murdered. And I'd like to point out this is a terrible security practice. Were I an evil overlord, and I saw all of my henchmen just happen to be disappearing mysteriously around this one area?
That would kind of pinpoint exactly where it is, right?
Now,
Yeah.
I realize it is difficult to keep track of all your henchmen when they're in the thousands, which is why you want to be generating weekly reports of all known hench deaths or disappearances plotted on a map, and then you can look for some patterns and color code them by cause of death. I would make an excellent middle manager in Mordor.
So maybe Sauron would be, more receptive to your advice than Theoden would.
Sauron, if you're hiring...
I mean, you could just...
Sauron, if you're hiring... I'm not getting anything. I wonder what kind of benefits they have.
Probably not great health benefits. If you're sick, they just, send you to Shelob.
That could be a problem. And vacation time is also very important to me.
True. No, they seem to be worked ragged. So not great benefits being on the Sauron team.
Yeah, they need a stronger HR team, I think. Anyway, they're going to murder everybody, which leads to this really uncomfortable scene where they have to retrieve Gollum and make him cower and cringe.
And again, that Frodo could have maybe explained more about the situation and told Smeagol that there were merry men about, but he didn't. He was just like, "Come follow me. There's danger." Yeah. Why didn't he just say like, "Hey, we've kind of been apprehended by these dudes from Gondor.
Let's not get murdered."
Yeah.
We got to go talk to them. I feel like that would be understandable. And Faramir is also going to talk about his big brother, Boromir. And when he hears that Boromir did a bad thing, he's basically like, yeah, that super tracks. He was that kind of person.
Well, he kind of puts it all together because he's, trying to ask Sam and Frodo questions. And they're mostly evading the questions. Sam blurts out a few things stupidly.
Like Sam does.
Right. But Faramir kind of just puts it all together because he just kind of sees in Frodo's manner that okay, so things did not end well between you and Boromir. Like, okay, so you don't know he's dead, so that means you must have parted company before he died. Why was that? And then once Sam blurts out ring, Faramir puts it all together, and he's like, oh yeah, Boromir probably tried to take the ring.
Mm-hmm.
So Faramir is pretty clever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like Faramir.
I do too.
And he has no desire to take the ring himself. So
But
he's
he's
a
like,
pretty cool guy.
yeah, my big brother would totally have tried to do that.
yeah.
He always wanted more power. He wasn't cool with being a steward. He wanted to be a king.
Yep. Yep.
Love that.
Yep.
I mean, he still talks about, oh, but he looked so pretty as a corpse. It's all fine.
Yeah, right.
Now, spoiler alert.
My brother's beautiful corpse.
Nobody's going to talk about Gollum that nicely once he dies. Yeah, I feel like if I encountered a sibling's corpse, I'd probably not be talking about what a pretty corpse it was.
Yeah, that was a pretty oddball thing to say. Yeah.
Maybe it's just because in our culture, the way we treat the dead is to sort of hide them away, but
Right.
I still feel like it's kind of weird to talk about how pretty people are as corpses.
There is the, like, you know, die young, leave a beautiful corpse platitude. There's that
Yeah,
one.
and of course we do talk about what a pretty corpse Juliet is in Romeo and Juliet, but she wasn't dead at the time, to be fair.
Right.
Maybe it's not that weird then. I don't know. It's still something
I'm gonna stick on the realm of, like, not wanting to see corpses as beautiful. I think that's the line I don't want to cross.
It does lead to some things. If I encounter your corpse, I will not talk about how beautiful it is. I'm sure that all the corpses you grow trees out of, you don't talk about how beautiful they are.
Yeah. But I will never be a corpse. I will sail away into the west.
True. Good for you. Good choice. So they finally leave Faramir and they head out toward this, like, secret mountain cave pass that should get them past Cirith Ungol, and which is where the Black Riders hang out, and ride into Mordor. Now, shock, surprise, Smeagol has betrayed them and is going to lead them right into the lair of Shelob. I'm so happy to see Shelob again. Though I just realized that The Hobbit does not actually identify the spider that Bilbo fought with as Shelob. It was just a great spider in Mirkwood.
I think there was a mention in the Two Towers that she came from Mirkwood. I think.
Right. Yeah, she definitely did. She kind of traveled through a plot hole because Tolkien just remarks that it is not known or recorded anywhere how this spider got from Mirkwood to Mordor.
She probably followed Sauron. That's my theory. Oh, she's
Maybe.
described as Sauron's cat.
Aww.
So, you know, Sauron was in Mirkwood, gathering power and stuff, and then he relocated back to Mordor. So, you know, she was probably just, like, following along. She's like, oh, this guy, sends meat my way. Let me just, like,
Yeah,
go with him.
She's basically his feral cat under his front porch that he feeds.
Yes, exactly. That's what she is.
I have brought along my stuffed spider that I had as a child.
This was your childhood, Shelob? That's
Yes,
adorable.
I actually named her Sheila.
Oh, that's so cute.
Right?
Because your parents read you Lord of the Rings.
Yes, so I
That
have,
is wonderful.
and she's a puppet.
That is so cute.
So they encounter Shelob. They sort of get away with Galadriel's magic filing cabinet.
That's right, the magic filing cabinet. They open up the cabinet and a bright light shines out.
So God reports.
Yeah.
The light hurts her eyes. She doesn't like it. Sam ends up stabbing her with Sting, but fortunately she's not dead. She's just sort of limping off, oozing.
He takes her eye out first. Ouch.
She's
Right,
got 7
limps off
more.
oozing, exactly.
And then Frodo's been bitten and he's in a bad way. He looks dead. So he's full on doing the Shakespearean thing where he's fake dead.
Did Sam ever describe him as a beautiful corpse? I can't remember. I feel like maybe there could have been some beautiful corpse remarks in this instance as well.
Well, he's got his
Pale,
beautiful...
lying asleep.
See, he's got beautiful clothes on.
Oh, the orcs describe him as a beautiful almost corpse. They're like, oh, he's little, but he's fair and elf-like. So even if Sam didn't think he was a beautiful corpse, the orcs did.
All right, so we are 2 for 2 on beautiful corpses here. But to be fair, again, one of them is not actually a corpse.
Right.
Anyway, the orcs take him away. This is also when Sam's eavesdropping, because Sam runs back because he doesn't want the beautiful corpse to be taken by the orcs.
Right.
And hears them talking about the venom and how Frodo will wake up. So he's like, oh no, my master's going to be taken by the orcs. Now, fortunately, Sam did some looting of the body before he wandered off. So he's got the magic all-powerful ring.
I can't believe he even thought about not taking the ring. Like
Right.
he thought about, like, not taking it and staying by Frodo's corpse and just getting caught and letting the world end.
Clearly,
He even has, like, if only I could tell the great wizards and elves that I'm sorry I let the world end, but I had to stay by my master. I can't believe he even thought that. Like, of course, take the ring and go on.
the world is going to end.
Right.
Like, figure it out.
Like, I'm sorry, I just can't be bothered to walk any further. I'm just going to let the world end. I hope they forgive me.
I mean, I understand if you're tired and your feet hurt and wanting to let the world end, but don't let the
Yeah.
world end.
No, don't let the world end. Oh, and then after he realizes that Frodo is not dead, he's just like, oh, I knew I should have stuck by my instincts to stay by Frodo no matter what. Like, no, you shouldn't. You do not stick with the beautiful corpse. You go save the world.
But he's going to go retrieve the beautiful, now not corpse. Fortunately, he has the magic ring. Somehow he's not going to have the problem that Frodo was having earlier, which is where you put on the ring and immediately Sauron kind of knows where you are. So it's going to...
Right, he has it on for a while, and he's like, okay, I can tell that Sauron's looking for me, but yeah, it's not immediate. This somehow doesn't alert Sauron of the overall plan that the ring is coming into Mordor.
I don't think we're supposed to think too hard about that.
Right.
So he's going to sneak after the orcs in the Tower of Cirith Ungol, where all the Nazgul hang out. And that's where the book is going to end, on this cliffhanger. Frodo's a beautiful corpse. Sam's chasing after him with a magic ring.
Yeah, this is a cliffhanger that occurs on an actual cliff, so that's pretty elegant. I like that. Yeah, it ends in a very dismal place. It's not looking good.
Not at all. We'll continue this in Lord of the Rings.
One more thing. Back to the end of Gandalf's story.
Oh, right, yeah.
As he is galloping away, and Shadowfax is going to show them the meaning of haste, he finally says, "We have been too leisurely." He finally gets it. You know, throughout the whole Fellowship of the Ring, all the way through, the battles and fighting the Balrog. Finally, when, they have the Palantir and he's finally going to Gondor, he realizes we've been too leisurely.
Maybe if we hadn't spent months in Rivendell and another month in Lothlorien, we wouldn't be in this time crunch now.
It took him a while to have this epiphany.
So we are not going to have this epiphany, so it will take months for us to get to Lord of the Rings, or to the Return of the King. The time has come for us to rate this on my unitless sugar scale. So the S stands for sexiness, and I want to talk about the Rohirrim. And
Let's talk about their beautiful hair again.
their great hair. I kind of want to read a fan fiction about the hairdressers, the Rohirrim, like how Wormtongue has
Good idea.
convinced them to go on strike and lay down arms, and then the Rohirrim are just unable to fight because their hair is just not pretty anymore.
No.
So they
Would lose all their confidence.
have to do labor negotiations with the hairdressers in order to get the strike to end so they can get their hair done.
I would read that.
So would I.
I would definitely read this fanfic.
So yeah, the Rohirrim are all super hot with super great hair.
Yeah, they take care of sexiness factor for sure.
Aragorn is still hot. Eowyn's making eyes at him. He's making eyes at Eowyn.
Right. I don't know whether the little Aragorn Eowyn tease is sexy or not, because it's too much of a tease. It's a disappointment. Not
It
sexy.
is. We also kind of know how it's going to end.
Right.
So I feel like
It's nothing's gonna come of that.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
Yeah.
So it's a little sexy, but could be sexier.
True. The
You-
Rohirrim hair. That we're gonna say yes, sexy book for the Rohirrim hair.
Yes, so sexy. Would you rip your bodice for the Riders of Rohan?
I mean, yeah. I think so.
Hell yeah.
I think that's bodice ripper material.
I mean, there'd be so much hair. All right, sexy book. Uniqueness.
It's a medieval fantasy. There's battles. Same thing I said about the Fellowship. I do think that Tolkien has a unique way with words. So that's kind of where the uniqueness comes in. I like the way he describes things. There are, elves in many stories, but I just really like the Tolkien elves and their whole thing that, they wanted to speak to all the creatures to the point that they woke up the trees. I think that's unique.
It is. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I do think he's lifting a lot of material out of folklore,
Yeah.
but I'm not mad about it. I don't necessarily need things to be unique.
Yep.
Gender. I think in my notes I just wrote Shelob feminist queen ?
That's fair. That's fair.
So women who are in this story, we have Eowyn, who I think does not say a word in this book.
No. All she does is elevator eyes Aragorn.
And Theoden forgets she exists.
And Worm Tongue was gonna abscond with her. Gross.
Yeah. But then we have Shelob, who I feel like is just living her best life under
is.
Sauron's front porch. She's making the babies and eating her mates.
We also have the Ent wives. They were tired of this shit and they
They just
peaced
left.
out.
Yeah, they were like, we don't like living this by. So there's a lot of female characters who are into just living their best lives in their own environments.
I'm gonna assume the Ent wives just found somewhere to go and they're not dead. They wandered somewhere.
They wanted to make their gardens and just chill.
Yep. So, okay, gender wise. I don't know. They don't talk very nicely about the Ent wives. I
Or
kind of didn't
about
like.
Shelob.
Oh, well, of course they don't talk nicely about Shelob. They're very disgusted by Shelob. But even the way Treebeard is describing the Ent wives, he's like, they just want to control, they're doing this gardening and they just have to have control over the living things. It's just well, you don't want to describe it that way. I think the gardening sounds all right.
I have a little garden that I putter around in.
Oh man, I've had some tomatoes from your garden and they were delicious.
You have.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot stop growing tomatoes. I'm hoping that I don't have another surge of tomatoes this year. The tomatoes are terrifying. But yeah, there's nothing wrong with gardening. It's fine. It's not necessarily about controlling the environment.
Right. Just a suggestion.
Yeah, just a suggestion.
Like the One Ring bread.
It's a suggestion. Axiness. Franz Kafka, of course, says that a book should be an axe for the frozen sea inside us. There definitely is an axe in this book.
Yeah, we have Gimli's axe.
He threatens to chop Gandalf apart with it.
We can learn the lesson of not chopping the trees.
Right. Because Lorax speaks for the trees.
Right. You don't want the Lorax to come and get you if you start making sneeds. I find the Two Towers less axing of the frozen seed inside than the Fellowship. But I love the whole series. But Two Towers, no, not too axy.
Which brings us to readability. I got so angry at this book during book one because everything has to happen twice because the party's been split. So what they start doing is they describe the hobbits who have been kidnapped by the orcs and what they're doing. And then they describe the other half of the party finding the traces and then also describing again what the hobbits just did. And then they sort of run into Gandalf and they go back over everything that they have logicked out that the hobbits did.
That's fair. That's fair.
And the first time this happened, I was like, okay, so Tolkien is a Beowulf scholar. He studies a lot of oral literature from this oral tradition where there's a lot of repetition. So that's just a stylistic thing. I can accept this intellectually. This is what he's used to. And then by the end, I'm just like, say we're trying to solve this riddle one more time, Legolas. Say it one more time. I cannot handle this. So, yeah, I just got kind of angry.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. There's a lot of repetition.
I even counted. They take like 9 days to chase the hobbits, but they take forever to talk about it because, again, they have to describe everything twice. And it's not like you learn any new information.
Right.
This could all be happening internally.
I don't know. Maybe it's just to demonstrate how clever Aragorn's tracking is. Because, like, we see the hobbits do the thing, and it's like, oh, Aragorn just figured out exactly what it was. Good job, Aragorn.
Good job, but maybe we don't need to see the hobbits doing the thing.
Yeah,
we
right,
could have
right.
just described Aragorn.
Yeah.
Just do one thing. It's definitely not the quickest or most pleasant read. It gets annoying with the repetition. It picked up in part 2, but then I was annoyed about the way they were treating Smeagol.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. It kind of comes and goes with the readability. There are a lot of sections that I'm like, just droning on. But then, like, I find the palantir scenes very, like, oh, I want to read carefully. This was exciting. The whole description of the Ents destroying Isengard is very fun. Definitely the Shelob chapter.
Yes.
So it has its moments of page turner, but not the whole book.
And I did definitely like the scene with the dead swamp that they went through. That is
a good
so
scene, too.
creepy.
Yeah.
Carol, thank you so much for joining me. I have now revealed my identity. I'm Beth.
Oh, Beth, it's wonderful to meet you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for lending me your ears.
Of course.
Is there anything that you would like to exhort our readers to read?
Muddle through the whole Lord of the Rings series. It's worth it, even though it's tedious.
And I still
And
think
the Silmarillion, too.
at least read The Hobbit. Like, I'd say The Hobbit is better than the Silmarillion.
Yes.
I will now read the Silmarillion with you for this show. I love you, but I don't love you
It
that
would take
much.
a lot of episodes.
I just don't have that in me.
That's okay.
I need a better sign off than like and subscribe. I just feel like so annoyed with myself whenever I say that.
Oh, I mean, it's kind of like a YouTube must, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, and I hate it.
Like and subscribe, even though we're annoyed to be saying that.
Hit something with an axe. It's really fun. Try not to hit your own leg with the axe, because that's bad for you.
Preferably the frozen seed inside you.
Yes, not your own leg, unless your leg is frozen inside you. The number of legs frozen inside you should be 0.